stop me now, they won't stop me now, they won't stop me, no. They won't stop me now, they won't stop me now, they won't stop me, no.
Hello and welcome back to We Are Mighty. We Are Mighty is just a way of me chronicling, journaling my experience with grief since the loss of my son, Miles, aka Mighty, hence the name, who I lost in 2023. As a reminder, our wonderful theme music, that is Miles, aka Mighty, in the flesh, a song that he had written for his mom that I knew nothing about and actually was sent to me after he passed away. So that song means a lot to me, and that is why it is the theme song to our show. So how has the last couple of weeks been treating you? I hope well. I hope the last episode helped you out with dealing with matching energy and whether or not to match energy and deciding when it is appropriate or not appropriate. So this week, I've had some things that have come to light, I guess, that I wanted to discuss because honestly, I just felt it was pretty interesting, and I'm sure that I am not the only one on a grief journey who has dealt with them. So previously we had talked about the 5 stages of grief. And we know the 5 stages of grief are not necessarily in any particular order because you can go through one stage to the next, back to the first one, or jump all over. But they typically say that there are 5 main stages of grief. Those stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And I think in a previous episode I did say that maybe there should be more than 5 because there's some things that everyone who's grieving goes through, and it may be something that needs to be brought to light. I don't know if you can ever know what to expect when dealing with grief, but there's definitely things that are common amongst those who are grieving. And what I want to talk about today is something that I definitely feel needs to be highlighted as a possible stage, alternate stage, overtime, I don't know, but as a stage of grief, because it definitely comes about or is heightened once you are going through a tragic loss, especially. So we know that my son Miles was taken as a result of gun violence. That night, we had been out as a family, bowling together, having a great time. You know, when we left the bowling alley, it was already midnight. And I remember I flat out told my son to go home. He said, "Okay, Mama, I'm going." He said, "I love you." I said, "I love you, be safe," like I always did. And I watched his car head towards his house. Somehow he got turned around, came back into the town where I live, because he lived in a small town outside of it. Ended up at a party. A fight broke out. And ultimately my son ended up shot. I'm telling that story because after that happened, I was afraid to go anywhere. I was afraid for my older son to go anywhere. I was afraid for my other sons to go anywhere because something can happen. Something can happen anywhere you go. So for a while, I never left my living room. I never left my couch. Yes, I got up and ate. I got up and got dressed and cleaned myself up. I would get up and go get in the bed some nights. But for the most part, I sat in the same spot on the couch. 1, because of a stage of grief, depression. But 2, because of fear. I was afraid to go outside. I was afraid to go anywhere that there was a group of people. I was afraid if I heard someone raising their voice at someone else, because you never know what could happen. Because I never would have expected for my son to go to a party and end up shot and killed. So everything had me fearing what would happen. And I looked it up. And apparently when you go through grief, fear and anxiety are definitely symptoms, I guess. It makes you, number one, think of your own mortality. If my child could die at the age of 24, I'm almost 50. When is it coming for me? And so waking up every day, which I should have looked at as a gift, I guess, I just woke up in fear. My husband would leave for work. I would be afraid until he came home. So it wasn't just fear. It was paranoia. I am now still, here we are 2 years later. And I'm realizing it's not just a fear of the unknown. It's not just a fear of, what could happen as far as death being around the corner and, death being unexpected, of course. But I am paranoid at almost everything. Anything that happens, it's like the worst case scenario comes to mind. Just yesterday, my husband worked late. I called his phone and it went straight to voicemail. His phone never goes straight to voicemail. I call again, it's going straight to voicemail. I literally pull up the cameras at our shop to try to see what he's doing. I can't see him. Now, he's working. Did I think he's under a car and I just can't see him under the car? Did I think maybe his phone went dead? He's working later than normal? No. Immediately, I'm panicking. Something's happened. He should have answered his phone. I should be able to see him on the camera. And every single worst case scenario went through my head. So I finally called the shop phone and he answered and said, well, I was under a car and my phone's dead. And I was relieved, but literally my heart was beating super fast. I'm breathing heavy. I'm sweating like I am literally in panic mode. Something that normally, previously, I'd call his phone and go to voicemail. His phone must be dead. Or even, is he mad at me and he's blocking me? What is that about, But none of that. I immediately went to the worst case scenario. And I feel that this is because of dealing with grief. Because that would have never, prior to 2023, that would have never been my thoughts. My mind would not have even gone there. Driving down the street, every car that comes anywhere close to me, I'm like dramatically swerving. And then I'm thinking to myself, that car wasn't even close. What am I doing? Because now, rather than automatically thinking, okay, keep your eye, pay attention, it's automatically fear, paranoia. They're going to hit me. It's going to be an accident. I'm going to die. I'm going to roll over. I'm going to be trapped. Something's going to happen in a split second. And I will say, without a doubt, I absolutely freaking hate it. I hate it. And I don't want to have these thoughts. And no matter how much I say, you've got to stop thinking this way. It's got to get better. And it does for a while. But still, on a day-to-day basis, I am constantly in fear of literally the worst case. I feel like my mind plays out a Final Destination movie anytime I am left to just think about something, or anytime something unexpected happens, or it doesn't even have to be anything unexpected. I can think that that unexpected thing is about to happen and something's going to go wrong. Now it's one thing to prepare for the worst, I guess, or prepare for, accidents, because, that's something that we do. We want to be safe, but it's not just a safety thing. It's literally what's the worst that can happen? But not just what's the worst that can happen. It's what's the worst thing that can happen, and it's now more probable that it's going to happen. So I'm trying right now consciously to get past that. It's like baby steps, of course. I'm not as sad as I was. I literally, after watching the movie again, and I had seen it before, but after watching Inside Out for that assignment for my mental health class, it really helped me. So I try not to feel the sadness as much. And I think I'm doing really well with that. But the paranoia, it ain't going nowhere. I really wish it would. I really try to be brave. And if you know me and you know how I like to live life, I'm not going to say on the edge, but, on the edge. I'm afraid to ride my motorcycle. I'm afraid to drive my car sometimes. And it's crazy because I grew up riding dirt bikes, motorcycles, four-wheelers. I mean, jumping hills and doing crazy stuff to the point where my mom yelled at me for the way that I used to ride ATVs and all of that. And now I'm afraid to do any of it. And the funny thing is that daredevil spirit, Miles had it. He loved ATVs. As a matter of fact, his grave marker has a four-wheeler on it. A basketball and a four-wheeler, because that's what he did. He played ball and he loved to ride ATVs. And I know he got that from me. And he was very safe with it. And I'm always safe. But now it's difficult to even do the things taking the utmost level of safety. At my son's funeral, I rode my motorcycle to his repast. And it was the middle of July, towards the end. And I had my helmet on, had my protective jacket, I had my gloves, I had all my protective gear. I started the motorcycle and I literally sat there for a minute and stared at it. Like, can I do this? Can I ride this in traffic right now? What's going to happen? Now, I will say, since COVID, motorcycle accidents, at least in the area where I live, have shot up. It just seems like people do not respect riders. People don't even try to be defensive for riders. And so you have to be overly defensive, because I've seen accidents that have been horrific. And it's not necessarily that the motorcyclist was being dangerous. Yes, there are some who are very, very reckless. There are some who are very dangerous in the way that they ride. But I'm not one of those riders. I just love to ride. So I'm sitting here about to go to the church for the repast, and I can't even put the bike in gear. And my husband's like, "You sure you want to do this?" Yeah, I got it. And I did it because Miles wanted that motorcycle. Miles always wanted to buy it from me. He was going to get his own. He wanted to take the safety class so that he could get a motorcycle. And I told him he couldn't get anything like that without taking that class. And that was his plan, and he never got to do it. So it was really important to me to ride. Once I got going, I was fine. But even on the road, a car would whiz past and just one would feel too close and I'd get paranoid. And you can't ride paranoid. Respect the bike. Fear the bike to a certain extent, but you can't ride paranoid because you will have an accident. So I rode to the repass and I rode home and I was so proud of myself. And my older son, he was telling me how proud he was of me. But the nerves and the jitters were ridiculous, worse than I've ever felt before. And everything since then, every time since then, I haven't ridden my motorcycle as much as I used to because I'm in my own head. I'm determined that I'm going to ride it this summer because it doesn't make sense to have, excuse my language, but a badass motorcycle like I have and not to be riding it. But it's still going to take a pep talk. It's going to take, convincing myself I know what I'm doing because now I think in the back of my head, how do I know it's not my time? How do I know I'm not going to go? And as a reminder, a month after Miles passed away, my husband was in a pretty bad motorcycle accident in front of me. I'm not going to say pretty bad. He didn't break any bones. There was no blood. He hit it. The car turned in front of him. The other guy was absolutely at fault. And he slammed up against it, pretty hard. No dents, motorcycle was banged up, but it definitely could have been worse. And I thank God it wasn't. So the paranoia from losing Miles, the paranoia from my husband being in a motorcycle accident, although he was being safe, everything has me absolutely paranoid. And I hate it. I'm trying to find ways to cope. I literally Googled, grief, anxiety, and fear, and ways to deal with it. And I really didn't find anything very helpful. Of course, try to think differently and put the thoughts out of your head. I don't want to be medicated because I don't feel that I'm in that type of a situation where I need medication. I don't know. So that's my new struggle. The sadness I've learned to live with. The paranoia I refuse to live with. So I'm going to try to find ways of getting past it. Ways of realizing, honestly, it's life. And the harsh way to put it is, when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. But that doesn't mean that I want to, push it. Which doesn't make sense if you feel like when it's your time, right? So it's almost like a catch-22. Well, I don't want to move up my date, but I know that whenever it's time, it's time. It's almost like that definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over the same way. So I'm trying to break the cycle. I'm trying to get out of the insanity of paranoia. The insanity of fear, the insanity of anxiety. I've gotten past that insanity of sadness. I'm no longer in that loop of crying all the time. I'm not going to say I don't cry. I'm not going to say that. I had the other night, my husband and I were sending reels, sitting on the couch next to each other, sending each other reels. Married people do it. Y'all know it. But he sent me one that I thought was really funny. And before I knew it, I got ready to send it to Miles. In the second I saw his message icon on my phone, I remembered he was gone. So I went from laughing at the reel to crying almost hysterically. And my husband's absolutely confused. He has no idea what's going on. He thought another video popped up that made me sad. And I had to explain to him, yeah, I was about to send this reel to Miles. He literally had dropped everything and just picked me up because in that instant, everything changed. What was an amazing, hilarious moment became a moment of sadness. And I applaud my husband because I know this cannot be easy. He has his moments, yes, where he may think about him and, he may have a thought that triggers him. And I will tell anybody, no matter how much you loved my son, no matter how close you were to him, and that includes his father, his grandparents, even his brother, nobody can feel the pain that I feel as his mother to have lost him. So no, you can't say, oh, I'm grieving just like you. No, not just like me. That was my baby. I carried him in my womb. The connection that he and I had, no one else will have. And I'm not saying that no one else is suffering and no one else is hurting. But it's just something about the love of a mother. And I apologize, fathers, if I've upset you. It's just the truth. So I deal with the loss regularly. I deal with missing him regularly. I deal with the paranoia daily, multiple times a day. I'm sick of it, and I really just want to move past that now. And I'm going to figure out a way. I even try to figure out, is there a way going through these stages of grief can help me with it? No. Because I've gone through all 5 of them. I've definitely hit the acceptance stage, although there are times where I go back to bargaining again. But none of that is taking away the fear and paranoia, the fear of death is around the corner. And I think the reason for that is I feel like the moment I take my mind off of it, that's when it's going to come and hit me by surprise. And I say that because my kid's grandfather, he was an older guy. Of course, he lived a full life and everything, but he had been doing well. And then it seemed like he got sick out of nowhere. We lost him 2 weeks ago. Was I thinking about death at that time? Not really. Started to move past it, started to put it in the back of my mind, and here it comes. So that causes another fear. So there's the fear of dying, the fear of your own mortality, and then there's the fear of not realizing your mortality, not thinking about death, not worrying about it being around the corner. And that's when it comes. So again, that gives you the fear of mortality, the fear of death. Do you see the insanity here? When I really think about it, I literally get mad. Like, this is crazy. And I'm honestly trying not to cuss right now because that's how crazy I think this is. But what do? I'm in therapy every week. I'm dealing with my emotions and my feelings But how do you stop that? Are we supposed to stop that? Are we supposed to keep in the back of our mind, listen, At your age, I can't even say at my age because my son was 24. I had a family member who passed away at 8. I had a goddaughter who was 6 years old who died a few months ago. So you can't even say at this age it's coming because we don't know. Sometimes I just wish I could just leave the unknown. Not only unknown, unthought about. Yes, I'm sure that's not a word. Unprovoked. Uncertain. All of those uns, I wish I could just leave it there. Because it's exhausting. It's exhausting. I have dogs. Love my dogs. Most amazing, playful dogs. One day, one of my dogs barked and it sounded weird and I thought he was about to attack my husband. And my husband's looking at me like, what is your problem? You know these dogs are not those kinds of dogs. These are babies. But unexpected. You never know. And of course, then I'm getting mad again. Like, why am I even thinking this way? I can't keep these thoughts in my head. I'm assuming from my Google search and the information that I've seen related to how death and dealing with the loss of a loved one brings on anxiety and brings on fear, brings on the realization of your own mortality. I'm assuming that I'm not alone here, that I'm not the only one who has those thoughts that go through their head as a result of such a drastic loss. What I'd like to know is, what are you doing? How are you getting past it? Help me. I put my email address out there every time. wearemighty24@gmail.com. Tell me what you're doing to deal with the fear and the paranoia that comes along with your grief. I think even with the situations of grief that's not due to death, there's still a fear and paranoia. I lost my job May of last year. I have a new job. I'm doing well. I've had a promotion. In the back of my mind, as crazy as that last job was, after 4 years to let me go over something weird, I could get fired at any time. I could lose my job. And then what? Fear. Because of how great that loss of that job that I loved hit me. So it's not just with losing a loved one, not just with someone dying. Grief of any kind can bring on fear. Have a car repossessed that you loved. You have a fear of missing one car payment. I might lose my car again. Fear. Now that's probably a good fear because that'll help you with your credit score. But still, it's a fear. It can be a paranoia. It's crazy how certain things go hand in hand. And it's crazy how it took a devastating loss of my child. Yes, I know he was 24 years old. He'll still be my child because I gave birth to him. But it's just weird how that loss has made me realize so many other things. So many things that I've dealt with. So many things that I'm dealing with. So many things that I need to deal with. All of those things have come to the forefront as a result of grief. Now the jury's out on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And it changes from one day to the next. But it's definitely making me focus on some things. It's definitely making me take certain things seriously, but also taking some things lightheartedly. I've actually started to live again, to enjoy life, because life is short. So then, enjoy life, because life is short, because you have mortality, because death could come at any time. So you're afraid. Insanity. We got to break this cycle. We have to. And I apologize because I don't have the answer for you. I usually try to. We may have to do a part 2 on this one because I'm still working on what do we do to release the paranoia, to release the fear. It's one thing to have it in the back of your mind. Don't think you're invincible. Nobody is. But we got to find a happy medium. If you have an idea, please email me. I will put it in part 2. You can help me as I help you, as we help others. But I'm going to find a way. Because this fear factor, I cannot continue dealing with it every day. I remember that TV show. At the end, he's always saying, fear is not a factor for you. Fear is absolutely a factor of every day of my life. And I can't say that was the case before. So I got to put fear back in its place. Make it a non-factor, as they say. I'm working on it. You work on it with me. Help me help you. As always, we'll get through this together, one way or another. Whew. That one was kind of heavy too. But it's all right. Because that is just me being true to me. And as I always say, in everything that you do, be true to yourself. Be strong. And be mighty. We're here every other Friday, everywhere you listen to podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube and Spotify. Please feel free to email me. Again, we are mighty, all spelled out, the number 24 at gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have you join me. I'd love to share the information that you send to me on a show. Thank you so much for joining us. Be careful. We'll see you next time.
They won't stop me now, they won't stop me now, they won't stop me, no. They won't stop me now, they won't stop me now, they won't stop me, no.